going to spend a few seconds to wrap up the FX market. This is what was reported over the weekend. The Central Bank of Nigeria has sold $7.13 billion into the FX market since we started the new year. And we talk always about the investors and exporters FX window. It's called the I&E. That's now about $1.93 billion been sold through the autonomous sources between April 28 and May 26, 2017, according to data we got from Quadros Capital. So the almost $2 billion in that market, and you can see how investors are ramping up investments in the financial assets, Nigeria's financial assets, stocks and bonds, and treasury bills since that market was opened in April. So we just got to squeeze that in for you. A very quick one. As far as the Seven Sisters are concerned, let's look at the closing numbers for these big 7 oil and gas retailers in our market when we finished off on Friday. Corn oil at a 10.18%. 40 oil unchanged at 46. Share price, mobile oil, a negative 2.97%. Even as the notice out today that the SEC has approved the 60% takeover of ExxonMobil's shares in mobile oil by NIPCO and changing the name of that company to something like N11, isn't it? Okay, they haven't changed it, but you're going to see that on the street when you drive into Mobile anytime in the months ahead when the name would have changed. But they said they're going to retain some of the branding. Let's leave that story. Mobile was, MRS was unchanged, 3903. Owando added 0.88% to 807. Seplat largely flat at 350 and Total 265 naira per share. So let's talk about the minimum wage and jobs and business taxes. Of course, today, online reports, the online media, The Wheel, rose an editorial titled Nigerian Government Must Address Workers' Demand for Increased Minimum Wage. It's about a dozen paragraphs talking about why there's a need to increase minimum wage from 18,000 to 56,000. That's one of the conversations. Management consultant and policy analyst Michael Adeleye is here in the studios to discuss with us early this morning. So if you're at work, you need to listen to this, whether this will improve your lot as far as minimum wage is concerned. Good morning.
Good morning.
Hope you had a very nice weekend.
Yes, indeed.
Let's start from the minimum wage dilemma. This is what the Wheel newspaper online says this morning. I'm going to quote 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 paragraphs. It says that the current wage is long overdue for a review, having exceeded the stipulated period in the extant laws of the country. And this online news media says will decide with the workers demanding that the minimum wage be increased immediately because the existing wage is truly insignificant under the current level of inflation and the fall in the value of the naira and their concomitant effect. Big grammar. Break it up.
Thank you very much. Again, thanks for having me again. The last time I was here, we did mention this issue. We spoke about it. And my question then was, what are the empirical evidence or evidence that the government has to actually justify 18,000 as a minimum wage? It's absurd, if I may use that word. If you look at the current of inflation we have in the country at the moment, we've even gone past inflation. We are in a situation of hyperinflation. If you look at the exchange rates, and majority of the things we do in this country have been imported, and we spend foreign currencies, and when they come to the country, the price skyrockets to where the common masses can afford to purchase either the services or the product itself. So now, I happen to watch the National Assembly or the House of Reps debating on the national minimum wage, and I was quite impressed when Honorable Gbajabiamila actually mentioned that it should be reviewed, which has been my point. I mean, I've been advocating for. I mean, the minimum wage should be visited from time to time. Maybe every 3 years, maybe every year, maybe every 5 years. But since the inception of the 18,000 naira, it's just been forgotten. I mean, not considering the fact that prices of commodities and services are actually skyrocketing around the country. So now, when people are beginning to agitate for increasing minimum wage, I think it is the right time now we begin to talk about it and to actually look into the whole entirety of it.
Do you think the executive branch is on the same page with the legislative branch as far as this is concerned?
Now, that will bring me to, I've always fought the NLC, the Nigeria Labour Congress. I mean, their primary function to actually be the voice of the labour market or the labour in the economy has not been there. They're digressing from their primary responsibility to become a political, if I may use that one. They're supposed to be a pressure group to actually look into all these factors and begin to pressure the National Assembly, the executive, and obviously look into all this, but they're not doing it.
The executive branch is looking at its purse, and that purse is really lean.
When you say
27 state governments can ill afford current salary.
Well, I mean, that would take us back to what I call the national cake, where everybody goes to the federal level to go take allocations and so on and so forth. If every state government actually look inwards to what they can actually do to increase their internally generated revenue, to see what they have in their state to be able to bring out more or to boost the economy, then we shouldn't be talking about the inability
I love
to pay.
that argument.
Yeah.
But these are state governments who hitherto had invested very little or nothing in these very same states to generate any revenue.
Well, I mean,
I'm not sure. Any state that's built out factories or industries, or they just building motor parks and...
Do you really think, except maybe quite a few one of them, do you really think they have the interest of the masses, of the people they represent to be the state governments?
Well, it's a very difficult issue if you look at the FARC allocations every month, and you wonder why some state governments are still owing.
They can't even pay this, the civil service in the state, because the allocation is being reduced drastically based on the oil revenue that actually comes to the country. So what they have is not sustainable to pay the civil service, not to talk of other
Let's look at the civil service versus the public service.
Yeah.
Well, do state governors get minimum wage, or does the state governor fall into the category of a public servant or a civil servant?
Well, again, you're talking about the executive, but again, the NLC, that is their function. If they look empirically into all these anomalies, then they should be